everyone, and welcome to our NABS Talk today, which is Honesty, Humour and Culture with Rob Mayhew. I'm your host, Louise Scody, and I'm very pleased to have you with us. And I'm also super excited to have Rob with us here today. We're going to have a really great hour together now. Before I introduce Rob properly, let me welcome you to NABS. We're the support organisation for advertising, marketing and media people. We offer services including an advice line, group coaching, therapy referral, and NABS Talks like this one. And because we're a charity, our core services are free. If you would like to encourage your organisation to donate to us, then please get in touch with us and we'll start the conversation going. Now, I am so excited, as I mentioned, about today's guest. I'm a Rob Mayhew super fan, and he is waiting in the wings. He's got more than 20 years experience working in London's top agencies. He took his career to new heights when he finally put his experience to good use and joined TikTok in lockdown. Using his skills as a stand-up comedian, Rob found his ability to shine a light on the agency world with his funny sketches, which soon earned him over hundreds of thousands of followers on TikTok and LinkedIn. Rob hates listening to his bios, but he wants you to know that the Drum called him Adland's favourite social media star. Well, he's certainly our favourite social media star. He's going to be taking your questions today throughout the chat. So if you'd like to ask him anything, put your question in the Q&A box and we'll do our best to get it answered. We'll either do that during the chat or at the end of the chat. We'll see how it goes. Without further ado, welcome, Rob.
Hang on, hang on, everyone. Hi, NABs. Do we call them NABs?
We can do. We haven't done before, but that doesn't mean we can't start.
NABs. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm glad some people have joined because I can see the numbers, so that's nice.
Well, it's absolutely fabulous to have you with us. How are you doing today?
I'm very good today, actually. I've just had a coffee. I'm not poorly. Which is nice. Had a busy week though, doing lots of filming and fun things in the lead up to Christmas. So and I've watched the John Lewis Christmas ad this morning, which I enjoyed very much.
Oh, so you're giving it a thumbs up?
Giving it a thumbs up. It's a new agency that have got the job, so they must be incredibly stressed. So I get a bit of excitement from that. But I thought it was a bit different, wasn't it? It wasn't soppy. The big question will be, will my mum send it to me on WhatsApp?
Does she normally?
Yeah. She'll go, have you seen this? Or my sister will. So they haven't done that yet, which is a red flag. So I don't know why they haven't sent it to me. They always like to send me everything to do with Christmas.
TV the Mayhew women, there's a barometer for taste there.
Exactly.
First things first, what jumper are you wearing today?
Today is flowers on the front. On the back, the flowers are wilting. So when you walk past me, so if you're looking at my chest, you walk towards me, you'll see lovely flowers. When you look back to get a second take, you get to see the back of the flowers, which is slightly wilting. All available on Rowing Blazer website. Just a little plug there. It's not fast fashion. They are a bit expensive. Don't come at me. This is free.
Well, you haven't just brought cuddly jumpers into our lives, but you've brought so much joy into our lives, and goodness knows we need that at the moment. Your videos are super funny. How did you get into making comedy videos, and how do you make it work with the daytime job? Because you're 2 days a week at Gravity Road, aren't you? I
am, yes. So I started so going back. So yeah, as you said, I've got like over 20 years experience now working in agencies. And I moved probably about 10 years ago into sort of digital, maybe longer than that now, 15 years ago, into digital and social, and then became kind of head of digital, head of social media sort of roles, quite senior roles. And then I was at an agency and I was writing a lot of strategies and playbooks for social media, and TikTok came about. And like most human beings, I hadn't joined it, but I was still writing strategies about it because I didn't have the time. And then I just thought, do you know what, I'm going to join it, see what it's about. And then at the same time I was doing stand-up comedy, and then lockdown happened. And so I thought, do you know what, I've got a bit more time, I'll join it, understand it, become a TikTok expert, actually have an opinion on it. Because I'd kind of fallen out of love with social media, because with things with social media back in the day, sort of 10 years ago, before TikTok, so not even that long ago, you know, you do a content calendar, you put the ideas into the studio, they'd create these very high production branded posts for the brand, and then you post them and no one would see them, because like 5% of your audience would see them unless you paid money. And I just there was no joy there. And then TikTok came along, and you didn't need any production skills, you just needed good ideas and a ring light and a camera and a phone, I mean. And so that kind of all combined with the fact that in lockdown, I couldn't do stand-up. So I started posting, then I was freelancing. I was doing like 8 TikToks a day. And I wasn't really telling anyone I was doing it, but my wife knew, obviously. And these were just like bits of stand-up and walking around the streets, kind of monologuing to the camera. And then about 6 months into that, of experimenting with all different characters and whatnot, I kind of started doing things on the green screen. So that basically is just an effect on the camera, on the phone. So you don't have to leave the house, don't need any equipment. It's just one of the effects they have. But it meant I could be anywhere in the world with this green screen. So I could do characters anywhere. And I did one about what happens when you go into a meeting room and there's someone already there. And very relatable. And I went from getting like 400 views to getting like 20,000 views with this. And I was like, oh, that's interesting that people like that relatable workplace thing. I got 20 years of experience of doing that. And then so I kind of jumped on that, still doing other bits as well. But then the numbers were doing really good, and I started to grow quite quickly on TikTok. And then I just thought, you know what, I'm going to be more specific about the industry, because otherwise you'll just run out of material. Because actually the general jokes, so, you know, the relatability things are fine, but actually I really enjoy the nuances and the weirdness of the industry that we work in. So, you know, anything from timesheets to client presentations, pitching, that sort of stuff. So, and then, yeah, that's kind of how that kind of came about. And the feedback was quite instant, even though it wasn't instant, because it took me 6 months, you know, to a year to really get good at making this stuff. But I then started posting on LinkedIn, and that was a game changer for me. I didn't know you had followers on LinkedIn. I thought you just had connections. So I went from like 200 followers on LinkedIn to, I think it was like almost 100,000 in, I don't know, it's probably been about a year, which isn't bad at all. And that just opened up what I was doing to a very even more specific audience, because I can't really see who people are on TikTok. They can comment and stuff, but on LinkedIn, you can kind of see where everyone works. You can kind of, you know, there's a bit more of a specific community for what I do. So yeah, so that's kind of where I got to. And then I started working with brands who wanted access to my audience and what I did, and creating sketches for brands. And so it started to, money started to kind of, you know, by doing that, I was doing it for free for a good year and a half. And then slowly I started to get paid to work with brands, which is kind of what my weird, because at that point I was head of influence at a PR agency. So I was almost on the other side of the table, whereas now I'm the creator that the brands and the agencies talk to. So all of that gave me a lot of experience in terms of how to kind of work with agencies and brands, because I've been there, and what I want from a creator. So it kind of all came together very nicely. It sounds planned, wasn't really, although there's more elements of planning now, but it was kind of like a wonderful accident.
So all of that's led to you working at Gravity Road as well, hasn't it?
It did, yeah. So I was always the client servicing side of agency. So I've always been, you know, an account director, client service director, or you know, dealing with the clients, not the creative side. I've always been in creative. Like, I don't think you're ever sort of driven by your role. But what I wanted to do when working with Gravity Road, and the reason I wanted to join them, was because they saw what I was doing. They've got lots of brands who are on TikTok and platforms who need this content. So they wanted my expertise, which is exactly what I got into TikTok for, to do that. So yeah, I became a creative director at Gravity Road, specifically looking at that stuff. And so, yeah, it was a complete lifestyle, well, complete kind of career change in that sense. So no more finance meetings, no more resource meetings, still do client meetings, but I don't have to worry as much about the presentations that go with those. Let someone else deal with that now, which is great.
You can tell from your videos that you have a lot of experience of that, and the pitching as well, which is a consistent theme throughout your work, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've worked in the bio, it's like I have worked at some big agencies, I've worked at small agencies, I've been made redundant, I've won pitches, I've lost pitches, I've not passed my probation, I've just done everything, and I've worked below the line, through the line, above the line, if that's all still a thing. So I feel like this vast experience I've got has kind of lended itself well now to the position I'm in, because I've seen it. I've even been client side, so I've kind of seen it all, I think, and not a huge, it hasn't changed a lot over the years. So when people are like, oh, but if I quit my job now, I don't think it would matter. I'd still, because it's just, all the content I'm creating now is very much pulling on stuff of the past. There's not really a lot that's changed now. So I can find my inspiration from all these different jobs.
My main takeaway from this so far is that you can be someone who's failed your probation, yet ends up being phenomenally successful. So there is literally hope.
Everyone fails. It's never take it personally. You're just not right for the role. And also, my problem was I interview very well, so I'm very good at getting a job. And then when I joined the job, I'm like, okay, I'm a bit out of my depth there. And also, it was in an era when you'd be like head of digital, but what that meant is you're in charge of all the social media, all the SEO, all the website. I'm like, come on,
it's too big.
No one can do that.
Of course I can't. However, you do a lot.
Yeah,
and
right.
Although you described just before that your career's been a wonderful accident, you are actually a great inspiration for anyone who wants to have a portfolio career. We are basically expected to stay in our lanes, aren't we? And you have not done that. You have done a lot of zigzagging, and you've put loads of different jigsaw pieces together to form your career. What's your advice to anyone who actually wants to do that, maybe wants to be a bit more planned and methodical about having a portfolio career and trying lots of different things?
I think you need to try different things. You've got to find what you enjoy. And if you've been in the industry as long as I have, it's natural you're going to get bored of different things, and you also work out what you're good at. So I just didn't want to do the stuff I wasn't good at. But I think the issue is that I hadn't found what I was really good at yet. So what came about was just with TikTok and the storytelling and understanding, like being able to kind of create content that appeals to a TikTok audience, or even B2B stuff with LinkedIn. It's like, oh, I'm really good at that and I love it. So it's just, it's okay to try different things. And also the good thing about our industry is that things do change. So I know I'm talking about a lot of the processes don't change, but actually, with the advent of AI and TikTok and whatever's coming next, there's always opportunities to kind of pivot and specialize, because people don't have the time. So if you're willing to put the time in to become a TikTok expert, or an AI expert in your agency or wherever, that can really transform your career. You can do that stuff yourself. You've got YouTube, you've got all these things. I don't necessarily need to sign up to all these expensive courses, but there are some really good resources out there, especially with TikTok. They're very keen for TikTok for Business. They're very keen to give you all the tools to understand how to make great TikTok. So there's no excuses really. It's just time. So it doesn't. And also, look, I was 40 when I joined TikTok, so it's not an age thing. You don't need to, and I've got a child. We've just got a 2-year-old, so I know it's a bit different for a guy. I'm a dad, so I'm very conscious of that. But what I mean is, there are ways, and you shouldn't feel like, oh, I'm old, I'm settled. None of that. There's always opportunities around the corner for you to kind of pivot and find something that you really enjoy in the industry. you know, and it could be copywriting, whatever, you know, there's so much out there. And I think agencies are really keen, the good agencies are really keen to get people who have that passion and enthusiasm for certain things to, you know, to be working on the right projects.
And you're proof, because ultimately you got approached by an agency because as a result of your creative work.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And exactly that. And it was just from that body of work that they saw the opportunity, that it's good for new business, it's good for them, it's good for their existing clients. And yeah, credit to them for that. And the two Marks that run it have been fantastic. And that's what's good. They are a network agency. They're part of Brand Tech, but they're quite an independent-y sort of behave. So, you know, it's nice. It's nice. There's a lot of really good, interesting independent agencies that would sort of that can spot that sort of thing. So, you know, so you don't always have to work for a big network agency.
Which connects with the next thing I want to ask you. It's about working culture, because you do an amazing job of lampooning working culture in your videos, and you can tell that you have worked in some awful places as well as some brilliant places. So my question for you is, how early on in the process can you spot a toxic culture? Can you spot it at interview, or is it only once you start working there? And if you're in a toxic culture, what do you need to do about it?
It's difficult because actually it could just be a bad manager you have. So the agency might be great, but if you've got a bad manager or line manager or whatever, then that's can be really difficult, and it can just be toxic. So sometimes that comes in once you're already in there. But actually, no, I kind of can spot it a bit now when I go in there, and just you get a sense of it. I mean, reputations follow agencies. I think, you know, you can talk to your peers about different places. But yeah, you can kind of spot it when you're interviewing. You can ask them, I forget this, is, you know, when you're interviewing them, they're not just interviewing you. And so you can ask lots of questions about sort of how they deal with things and what the culture is. And, you know, in my 20s and early 30s, I was very much interested in the Friday night bar and the ping pong and, you know, the hang. Whereas now I'm like, what's the maternity leave, paternity leave? Like, what is the pensions? Like, just and just you get a sense of when you join a company, you get a sense of, right, are people working till 3 a.m? And okay, look, I get it. There are pitches, and especially if you're a small agency, there are going to be late nights, but you can tell from I always think culture kind of is how really from the founders downwards, because, you know, they set the standard. And from my experience, I've worked with some incredible females, women bosses and things like that, and I don't know why, but I found that they have a slightly better balance of life and work and life. Not always, but mostly from my experience. So, you know, I hope things have got better. I mean, I still hear horror stories, but I've been fortunate in the last few agencies where it is better. And, you know, I'm always willing to kind of work late and chip in and all of that. But I mean, back in the day, you know, it'd be frowned upon to leave before 7. And it's just, you know, and then just the behavior of the agencies as well, where the partying is more than the, you know, it can just be exhausting as well. So you just got to watch all of that, really.
Yeah, well, as dad to a 2-year-old, your energy levels for partying are probably lower than they used.
And also just do it, you know, I've got to go and pick my daughter up from the nursery at 5. I have to leave and pick her up at 5:30. So, you know, it's nice not to be people tutting when I go and do that. And it's just the way it is. And I think sometimes the industry isn't set, the processes aren't set for parents and, you know, mums coming back to work. It's just not, it just doesn't always work like that. And sometimes you can find really good agencies where, you know, they're just great. And I've had that where it's absolutely not even a question, you know, like family comes first, and that's really nice, and it doesn't affect the work. It's just a nice environment. Whereas I've worked at places where you get up to go and leave at 6, and there's, you know, you get the jokes and all of that. It's like part-timer and all that. So yeah, you just got, I bet you go and work at bad agencies, go and get those experiences. I'm not encouraging you to go work at bad agencies, but like it's going to happen. And just talk to your friends and your peers. Like I'm interviewing here. Do you know any bad stories? And just take that knowledge on board, because places do change. Places have got better. So if they're telling you stories from like 20 years ago, then that might not well be the culture now.
Well, actually, we've got a couple of questions. One is about culture. So this is from Anonymous. Do you think the culture and behaviour within ad agencies has changed a lot over the years? No longer the Mad Men industry it once was, notoriously a more uncensored workplace. Nowadays, we find ourselves having to censor what we say. Do you feel this bleeds into stifling creativity and expression? What's your take? Well, actually, I think a couple of your recent videos have been closer to the line than previous.
Yeah.
So
yes, I'm always conscious. I mean, look, anyone who's worked with me before knows that I don't really have much of a filter, but I'm not rude, and I'm very conscious. I'm not, I've been in agencies where it does cross the line a lot. The conversations previously, like just behaviour, but I think people are more sensitive to that, and that's correct. That's the way it should be. We don't want people to feel uncomfortable. And I can only talk from my experience. I do think it has got better, but I do still hear stories of sexism, and it's little things, and I even hear it from my wife. If you're a young web developer or whatever, female web developer, and you go in for an interview and it's just 3 men interviewing you, it's just little things like that it's what does that say about the agency? I don't know. It's just those little things that I think hopefully have changed, but my wife does report that it hasn't changed a lot.
I think it's a positive that we've got initiatives like Time 2, which NABS is a part of, which is to eradicate sexual harassment in the industry. So there's definitely a heightened awareness of the issues that need to be worked on, and hopefully we're making progress.
With that, and it's what I like to think is that over the last few years, men especially have more of an understanding that you need to step in and stop that immediately.
Yes, 100%.
And it shouldn't. It's never the responsibility of the women to, or whoever's the victim of it. They shouldn't be. They might not have a voice, because it's terrifying, that stuff. I've had a bully boss as an example, and everyone loved her, but she was horrible, very mean, and made it a whole place. But no one stepped in, and it's like, you kind of need those. I don't want to use the word ally. I mean, I would use it's the right word. But it's just, and I think, and we've all learned from those behaviours, and you think you need to just. I hope men especially can understand just the language you use, the behaviour, the way you talk about people. All of that matters. And you're not going to get it right all the time, but just being conscious of it and calling people up on it, and hopefully, it'll just, in next generation, it won't be an issue. And there's a wonderful woman called Cindy Gallop, who's a great follow on LinkedIn, and she's all about female founders and harassment in the workplace and all of that stuff. And she's like, we don't need less men running agencies, we just need to get rid of the toxic ones. And it's like, that's right. It's like, it's just, there should be a room for everyone to be at the top and managing, but actually just get rid of the shitty ones, because we don't need them anymore.
No, we do not. Goodbye, shitty ones.
Exactly.
Now, we've had a very important question from Cheryl.
Yeah.
Are you committed to wearing your jumpers in a heat wave?
I've been lucky enough to go to Cannes twice, not off the merit of being a good account handler or creative director, but very much that's a lie. But TikTok invited me twice. So what I try to do is if I'm performing or doing something to do with my sketches as a creator, I kind of have to stick a jumper on. I've got my red sheep one now is sleeveless, so that's good. Doesn't look very good on me, but I
think it's cute.
It's cute, but I don't necessarily have the arms for it. But yeah, I mean, I like wearing this is, and if anyone's worked with me before, they'll tell you this is how I have always dressed. I've always dressed a bit like we've always. So this is almost, it feels like it's a character now wearing those jumpers, but actually these are just my jumpers. Like if you see me in the street, I'll be wearing these clothes, basically.
So you really come into your own at Christmas then?
Everyone thinks these are Christmas jumpers. They're not, look. These are
Just
just
a regular
lovely
jumper.
woolen. I know what you mean. I do know what you mean. Everyone keeps saying, well, not everyone. I've had it a few times when I bring out a Christmas jumper. Number one, I don't like fast fashion. So if I was going to bring out a jumper, it would be expensive and then everyone would turn on me.
Yeah.
So,
we wanted to try and make a NABS knitted jumper for you, but no one on the team could knit well enough or fast enough to get it done.
And another thing, I want to give my mum credit for this. She got me, my mum's incredible like knitter. So I've always been into jumpers. She knitted, she reminded me of the weekend, actually, I've never mentioned this. So she's always knitted my jumpers as kids and things. So I've always had good woolen sweaters and things. So my mum should get some credit for that.
Big up Mrs. Mayhew and her sustainable fashion.
Exactly.
Right. The questions are coming in thick and fast. Thank you, everyone. Keep them coming. From
Ask me
Anastasia.
anything, by the way. Ask me anything.
It's open season, literally. Ask him anything. So Anastasia says, I've been a new biz lead for 15 years. Those of us in growth roles love your agency pitch observation. How do you think new business could be improved? And this does link with something that you have spoken about publicly over the past couple of months, which is the pitching process. It's something NABS is really passionate about as well, that the importance of protecting people's mental wellness during pitching, because that can go to pot during all of the stress and pressure.
Yeah, and it's hard, like, because, you know, as I said, sometimes if you work for a network agency, they've got the resources and all of that stuff. If you work for an independent agency or whatever, then, you know, it's all kind of hands on deck, and even is like that for a lot of the network agencies. But it's really difficult. I think we've tried things. You know, my view is that there should be a chemistry meeting. You know, and that's the important thing. And then if they want you to pitch and they want you to go off and come up with a whole campaign and platform and all of that malarkey, then it's like you've got to pay for that. And I feel like there is a slight move towards that, but I feel like it's going to really take the agencies to put their foot down, because you can't blame the clients. I mean, that's just the way it's been done. So it's a difficult one, and it is hard, isn't it? It's just really stressful working on pitches. But it's actually one of the most rewarding parts of the job as well. It's the most fun. You know, again, it's that kind of not coming from the creative side. You're on a pitch, kind of just the best idea wins, so anyone can have that idea. So it's a really fun environment, especially for people just getting started, to work on a pitch. It's a good way to kind of really get to grips of, oh, actually, I quite enjoy the strategy bit, or I quite enjoy this stuff. So it's an important part of the business, but I'm not sure I have the solution for it. But I just feel like the chemistry meeting's always a good approach. And then if you want sort of 3 weeks work out of the agency, then pay for it. We'll see though. I won't hold my breath. I will continue to do pitching. I mean, I find the pitching process it's just rich. It's just rich of stressful, anxiety-driven content, which it performs well for me.
Yeah, well, a lot of your funniest videos are about pitching, especially there's a recent one about ordering pizza during late night working, which I thoroughly recommend to everyone. Yes. What is your favorite out of all of your sketches? Do you have one?
There's something, so that it changes all the time, but one of my favorite things is, I'm going to stand up for this, everyone. Like if you're playing a video in a pitch, okay, and you've created like a mood film, and there's music, or you've got creds, you're showing creds and there's music. I find it really funny that you're sort of stood up by the screen, and you're sort of just like nodding along to the music, and sort of watching the client sort of nod along as well. I just find that hilarious. And it happened the other day, actually. We played our creds with some music, and we're sort of nodding along, sort of kind of thinking, this is great, isn't it? And it's just, I find that really cringe. And that was it's like just an observation that's quite an original observation. Like, you know, I can do sketches about booking meeting rooms and timesheets, but actually that as an observation, I enjoy that one because it's almost like, I don't think I've seen that observation before. It's very specific to our industry, and probably the music industry as well, where you just sort of hey, isn't this cool? I find that really funny. What else? I like when I do like an honest handover. They're always really fun to write, like an honest handover or an honest leaving speech, because it's all the things I wish I could say in a real meeting or real life that would be ridiculous for me to say. I mean, you'd be not fired, but you just, it would be crazy to say. So it's almost, a lot of these sketches an opportunity for me to say the things that I'm just biting my tongue to say in a meeting. I'm always, the thing that what's slightly irritating about me is I'm always looking for the funny moment. So it doesn't, I don't know if that makes me insufferable, but everything's funny to me. And I think that works quite well now with what I'm doing. But I just wish, there are things that happen in like the day job that I just wish I could just stand up and say that, look, isn't that really funny? Or just say something funny that will probably get me thrown out of the meeting. But now I can do that in sketches, so it's wonderful.
But I think that is why you're so successful, because you are saying what everybody else is thinking.
I hope so. And yeah, I think there's part of that, because I think there's not a lot of people doing what I do, especially if you're viewing stuff on LinkedIn.
We've got loads of audience questions now. So
fire them over.
Let's see whether people have really asked you exactly what we want to know. What do you think, says Jane, those who've been in the industry for ages can learn from those coming into it for their first roles? Great question.
What can we learn from people coming into the industry for their first roles? I think it must be really difficult now coming into the industry if you're not in the office 5 days a week, and it must be really hard. So I'm really going to switch the question a little bit, but I think number one, just fresh ideas, not all of us understand what it's like to be someone of a different age than us and different generation almost. So, just having a new take, a new voice, someone who hasn't been in the industry for such a long time and has the same way of thinking about everything and the same training, I feel like give those people voices to like bring some diversity to what already is a very sort of, it's just nice to have that sort of voice. So with youngsters, especially when I work with them, it's like, just give them responsibility to kind of bring their ideas. And there's some really good ones at Gravity Road who are just incredible, like the ideas they have, especially when we're working on TikTok, we all get different things fed to us on TikTok. So actually it's really interesting to see what they're into and what's working and what they're interested in. But at the same time, it's like, it's always hard. My personality doesn't really work working from home. Like I'm probably 60% good worker, 40% a fun person to work with. Whereas if I'm just working from home, I'm not in the office, they're only going to see that 60%. So it must be hard not being in the office all the time. So especially if you've got lots of questions, just being in brainstorms and seeing what the strategists do and just seeing what everyone else gets up to. It must be hard being a junior coming into the industry. But I feel like also at the same time, there's a real appetite, there's a real need for talent and that kind of that energy and that enthusiasm. So at the same time, you can bring that. If you're a junior, you can bring all of that. You haven't been jaded by years, no, not just work, not the industry, but just work. So it's like, it can be really refreshing to work with people just coming into the industry at any level, any age.
We've got a question from David Wilkinson. How do you suggest doing self-branded LinkedIn and TikToks like yourself in companies with strict social media guidelines? Yeah, very good question, because you do get away with a lot, Rob.
Well, correct. And I've been doing this, and I've done it at network agencies where there's a little bit, and the UK office has never had an issue, but obviously in America, works, you should be very grateful to work in industry. Why would you laugh at the job? But yeah, I think the guidelines, I think they need to look at the guidelines, to be honest, because if they want people to be, every employee you've got at an agency is almost like a mini influencer. especially on LinkedIn. You know, you kind of see things and you see where people work. So you should have the freedom to be able to say what you want and create sketches. Like, you know, I don't think anyone looks at my sketches and thinks it's a bad reflection on where I work at all. So I think people are smarter than that. I think, you know, you don't have to come in and be funny. I think you can just need to be an authority on LinkedIn and just show what you're interested in. And my advice would be pick something like, you know, I chose TikTok to become an expert in. So I was posting a lot about TikTok and sharing, being generous with what I was learning. And video was a great format for that. It doesn't just have to be video, although I just think it's just the best way of getting people's attention because they're essentially lazy. And I think just, you know, just post and try things. And I don't, those rules are there, but wait until you get told off a bit, you know, and then you can kind of navigate those rules. But I don't think those rules are necessarily fit for purpose now. Of course, don't say anything stupid, don't say anything ridiculous. But you can still talk about, you know, what it's like to work in your job, the things, you know, share your knowledge, share your things, other brands and other agencies that are doing stuff. I don't think it reflects bad on you or the agency if you do that.
Question from Kat Harris. Huge fan
Kat.
over here, and we regularly share your videos from LinkedIn within our teams. How do you balance your role, the videos, and being a family man? Do the lines ever blur?
So so I basically, because I'm very fortunate now where I work part-time. So I've kind of got my day job, and which is really doing the same stuff but for brands, where I'm not on the camera. It's sort of coming up with ideas, and then I've kind of created that role so that what I do, you know, the other 3 days of the week, actually 2 days a week, because on the Friday I have my child out of nursery. So it's just been a balance and trying to work that out. I used to, before my daughter came along, I was working weekends. I was doing it all the time. I wait till my wife went to bed and I'd get the ring light out and film. And actually, and that was part of the success, because I treated it like a business, like very professional. And because I loved it, I just want to do it all the time. And it's the case now. I would just want to film all the time. But you have to, after a while, you just have to find a way to make it work. And so, especially now with my daughter, is that I turn it off. You know, I don't do stuff in the evenings. I don't do work. I don't do create stuff at the weekends. I've got my days where I do it. But if you're not as, you know, just an hour a day, it would be enough in a way. It doesn't take long. Once you get into like, once I know what I'm doing, it just didn't take too long with TikTok, is it doesn't take long to write and film. And I'm always writing the premises on my phone during the week. So come, say, Thursday morning, I've got like 10 things I might want to film. I'll then quickly write the scripts, spend an hour and a half maybe writing all the scripts. And then I'll film them. And it might take 5 minutes to film, or if there's a few different characters, different jumpers, basically. That's the hardest bit, changing into all the jumpers. It doesn't take too long. So I think I've been able to balance it. And my wife's very supportive, and she always has been, because she just knew how much I loved it and how it was a good creative release for me. And it was never about, oh, this could be a way for us to make some money. It was never about that. It was all just about, this was something that made me really happy. So it was really good to have that. And now it's a case of just being very precious with my time and just making sure that it doesn't, you know, because I'm being invited to travel a lot as well now. So I have to turn things down, which breaks my heart sometimes, not being able to, like, I'll just nip over to Australia or go to New York for a few days. It's like, I've got to be, you know, fair that actually I can't do everything. And that's great. I've got an agent now. I've had one for a year. So he kind of filters all of that and does all of that. Kind of, do you want to go to this place? I still want to go to Japan, everyone. If anyone wants to take me and my family to Japan, that'd be wonderful. And the good thing is, a lot of these opportunities, I will make them fly me and my wife and our child out, because it's a lovely experience. And I don't know how long this is going to last. They're great. My wife and baby came to Cannes 2 years ago. No, they didn't come this year because it was just too hot. There's not much to do if you're a baby, if you're a child. It's not the great place for a family, a trip.
Not massively family friendly. If you get to go to Japan, I will come with, though. I've always wanted to go there.
Right.
On the subject of comedy writing, Charlotte Banks wants to know, what tips do you have for comedy writing?
So write everything down on your phone, okay? Like just go to notes or Google Doc, and any observations you have, write them down. That's literally the secret, because you're going to forget them. You will have the best idea, the funniest idea you've ever had, and 2 minutes later you'll forget it. And if you write everything down, it takes that stress off, and just get into the habit of that. And then don't just start filming, start creating. You don't need production skills, you don't need any of that stuff. So with comedy writing, just have fun, just write some stuff for yourself, and then assuming you want to film it, just make it. You don't have to post it, just get used to creating that sort of stuff. So it's just have some fun with it. And actually, do you know what? It's consistency. Don't expect to be like an overnight success, but you can very much have success within 6 months of doing it. And all the people who joined TikTok when I did, the comedians or people in the industry, have all now got success. Most people drop out because they're just not, they either don't enjoy it, it's not what they thought it would be, or they just aren't willing to put the work in. Whereas I found that if you're just willing to turn up every day and write something, and I'd always have a set day, say call it Thursday or whatever, or Friday, Saturday morning, if you've got a day job, of just like spend an hour writing and maybe 2 hours filming. Just have 3 hours of the day where you can just do that. And if you do that every week, something fun will come, something good will come out of it. But don't procrastinate, just get on with it and do it. And you'll fail and come up with silly things, but something will just drop and you'll think, oh, company meeting room. Oh, I've got 20 years experience. It seems obvious now, but it wasn't obvious at the time. But all those things I made in the lead up to it allowed me, so when I was ready to make these sketches, and I'd already learned how to write these sorts of things. So
just keep on showing up and something will happen.
Exactly that.
Okay, you mentioned America just before. Jennifer McCarthy got in touch to say, not a question, just letting you know, America's obsessed with you.
Thank you very much. My wife is from New York, so that's very good to know. Thank you. I look to spend more time in America moving forward. So hit me up if there's any speaking engagements or you need anything from me, because I'd love to grow my audience out over there.
You could go and buy some American jumpers.
Exactly. Well, these are American jumpers.
Oh, they are?
These are an American brand, yeah.
There you go. Right. Anonymous says, what's your view on the current level of ageism and similar behaviours in agencies? It's something that unfortunately still seems very prevalent, even in interview stages. Do you see this changing or improving in the future? What would your advice be for industry leaders that may not be aware of it?
I just think that, a lot of the people I look up to in the industry are much older. And I mentioned someone like Cindy Gallop, who's a big speaker on this topic, is you need people of all ages creatively working on things. And so, yeah, there is a huge amount of ageism. I mean, I'm 43 now, but, I'm quite fortunate in what I do. But you do see it. And I think it's such a shame, the experience and the talent that older people can bring, and the creative ideas. You don't suddenly get to a certain age and you don't stop having ideas. It's not quite how it happens. So I think, it's great to have a real mixed team. And I think, as we talked about, younger people, older people, all working together, I think is brilliant. And I think it's very sad that there is ageism still. It drives me crazy thinking about how, there's not more older people in the industry. And it's very sad.
Agree. From Anonymous, how do you balance your humorous social presence with being taken seriously in the office? Do you find it hard to create the separation at work? Yeah, are you as funny at work as you are on social?
I'm funnier at work, I would say, but no, I'm kidding. I don't know. It's an interesting one. I think I'm very fortunate where I work and have worked in the last few years. Fleischmann Hillard and Gravity Road. But it's never been an issue. I get the job done at work, but I'm still me, and that's something I've always been. I think it's always been a thing in my life. Like, at work. I've had reviews where they're like, Rob, we love you. We love you. We do need you to be more professional, but don't change because we love you. I'm like, well, those two things don't quite work. If you need me to be professional, or I'm the same. So, I think with age, I've probably become a bit more professional. But I think, we come into work, we're in work all the time and we've got to have fun. Why can't work be fun? And so it's great to have people at work who just love to have fun as well. As long as they get the job done, it should be a fun place to come. Most of my friends that came to my wedding were people I met in agency world. And I think everywhere I've been, every agency I've joined, I've probably made like 2 or 3 like really good friends. And so it's really important that, that is still an integral part of the job. And that's why work should be fun. And I'm a big advocate for that, as well as doing, obviously a good job.
It's a big part of your mental wellness as well, isn't it? Humour. And that can make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just how I deal with things. And you need that, because otherwise, if everyone's just a stress head at work, then it's not a very nice place to work, really. It's nice to have humour, and I think, just within the work as well as just in the workplace.
Here's a question from someone at Union Direct in Edinburgh, which is relevant. What's been your most horrific pitch experience? Also, can you come visit us at the Fringe next year?
I've never done the Fringe.
You should do it. It's brilliant.
And I do need to do it. It's a lot of work, isn't it? But anyway, yes, I would love to come into the Fringe. My work, I've had pitches where I've had you've worked for weeks on this thing, and then the CEO turned up and just the agency founder, and just ripped the ideas off the wall because they weren't his, or just a toxic attitude and mood. He was in a mood, and so just that side of it I've had, like the last minute. And then I've had brands who, when you're pitching to them on their phone, clients on their phone, or they're tired because you're the last agency to pitch. And then it's just, and also just where clearly they're not liking it. They're not liking the idea. Something's gone very wrong, or they've seen something that's better. So I think almost every pitch has something that you just think, but I've also had some great experiences, and God, it's just there's so many. And some of them I couldn't even turn into sketches because you just wouldn't believe that they've happened. And some of the things people tell me, I'm like, I couldn't make them into a sketch because people would just think I'm making it all up.
Now I'm thinking you should definitely turn those into sketches.
I think you're probably right.
Question from Anonymous. Do you think diversity has decreased or increased? Do you think it's easier for people to use their voice? Also, do you miss working with finance? And then I think that's a comedy happy face next to it.
I love working with finance. Do you know what? It's just, as I'm now the B Creator Business and Finance Creator of the Year.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I don't know why it was Business and Finance Creator of the Year, but I'll take it. So I can't wait to see. If anyone's worked with me in finance knows that that's hilarious. I do miss those meetings because they're actually comedy gold. I do not miss the stresses of like, where's the money coming from this month? Get the POs, get everything in, stressful. So no. And what was the first part of the question again?
Whether diversity has decreased or increased. Do you think it's easier for people to use their voice?
It's difficult for me to say that, to answer that. I think the agencies that I've worked in, yes, I think that it is better, and as it should be. And I think it's really good that a lot of the agencies, especially Fleischman Hillard, when I was at, they had a big D&I division and they took it very seriously. Even the creators that we worked with would be run through this, and it's really important to have that. It shouldn't, and it's a class thing, a race thing, all these things. It's really important that is, it's. I don't think I necessarily am the right voice to talk about that. Some amazing people that do talk about that though. See, I from my experience think it is getting better, but there's still a long way to go.
Yeah, and all of the survey and census findings bear that out. We just released a report called All Ears, and one of the things we investigate is the experience of mental wellness from people from different groups, right. And there's still lots of challenges there that people need support with.
Yeah, and I think I was just saying, it's just like, even when you go for an interview, and it's normally just like 3 white men interviewing you, it's just like, everything needs to be thought about. Like, that's just ridiculous that's always the case. And anyway, that's nothing.
Right, we've got 5 minutes left and a load of questions. So I am
Okay.
sorry if we don't get to your question, but I'm going to try and squeeze as many in as I can.
And you can
From
always
Virginia
LinkedIn
Barnes.
me. You can always LinkedIn me any questions if you want. I mean,
Okay, that's a lovely idea. Virginia Barnes, what do you think is going to happen to X? Yeah, try and answer that in less than 5 minutes.
I do still use it, as in, but I've never really posted on it, so I just consume it. But it's pretty toxic at the minute. It's ridiculous, and I don't know what Elon Musk is thinking. I don't know, to be honest. I'm really worried about the elections and all that stuff, and the war and just what's going on. I don't know. I really don't know. But I also I like to doom scroll, and I like to get angry. So I follow lots of people that make me angry. Like when I go to America with my wife, I always like to watch Fox News, so it makes me angry. So I don't know. Good question though. I don't have the answer.
Me neither, but I know that I prefer to watch your videos, which make me happy, rather than a lot of content I've seen recently, which has made me very upset. This is a massive question from Anonymous. With agencies merging more frequently, there's a concern among some about the potential impact on creativity. How do you see these mergers influencing the creative landscape within agencies? Do you think it might lead to a reduction in creativity? Additionally, how can influence contribute to maintaining creative integrity in the evolving advertising industry?
I'll take the first bit. So yeah, with agencies merging, because each agency has its own thing and its personality and the creative approach. So by merging, you kind of lose a little bit of that magic, I think. We'll have to see. I think creativity is still the most important thing in this industry, and you still see it. So, and I hope that won't die, especially with AI. I think creativity will be even more important. So yeah, it's definitely one to watch with all these mergers. And I hope that, there aren't layoffs when it comes to creativity, but we'll see. We don't just want there to be like, just these big networks. I like the independent agencies. I think that's really interesting. And, there's a place for all of those agencies. So hopefully they can all hang on in there.
Question from Claudia. Has a client ever called out your content or asked about your take on the client agency relationships and how politically correct and not transparent they can be?
Yeah, a lot of clients now that we work with might have seen my stuff. So it can be quite funny when I have meetings with them. But it's always positive. So that's good. And what was the second part of that question?
Calling you out on the relationships and how politically correct, in quote marks, and not transparent they can be.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't really understand that question, so apologies if I can't answer it.
But that's a kind of honesty that we've come to expect from you.
Yeah, there you go.
Right, another one from Anonymous. I think we can get 2 or 3 more questions in.
Okay, brilliant.
What advice would you give to someone looking to make an impact but struggling with resistance to change or big personalities who tend to dominate the conversations?
Tell me about it. Yeah, it's always difficult, isn't it? And I think just talk to your managers about that stuff and just make sure people are aware of it, and just don't shy away from your opinions, and just give yourself a voice and give other people a voice who might not, you might see that are sort of not necessarily being heard, whether it's a brainstorm, a client meeting, or just whatever. Like, just make sure people get the opportunity to talk and to speak and to share their views. And because there's always, I'm probably guilty of it, being a loud voice sometimes in a meeting. Actually, it shouldn't always just be the same 3 people talking in a meeting. So yeah, it's about other people, making sure those people can talk, and also just shout it. Like, just not saying become annoying, but like just make sure you're heard. It's really important, and no one's going to tell you off for it unless it's a client meeting.
In which case, be prepared to be told off. However, you can then go and watch Rob's videos and have a laugh about it, because you'll find something there that will empathize with your experience. We're about to finish. The thing that we have to mention is you've got a daybook out. So can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I wanted to create a book, a notebook that I call a daybook. I've always called it a daybook. No one else does. So I thought I'd call it a daybook. It's basically an agency notebook that is available to buy, that is made for people that work in the industry. So it's got some funny things that I've written in there. It's taken me months to write them, so very funny. Like a brainstorm bingo, finance meeting bingo, client meeting bingo, where to sit in a client meeting, little signs you can hold up saying next slide, please. Also, it's got dates for next year in there if you're creating content, key dates for holidays. But actually, it's just got like a place for job numbers. So it's actually a very useful book. And you can put yourself on the back of an avatar and choose what jumper I'm wearing on the cover. Very exciting. Who wouldn't want that? So you can buy that now for yourself. You can buy it for a workmate who might be leaving. Good Christmas present. I'd like to say all the money goes to charity. It doesn't. It goes to me.
It goes to the Rob Mayhew jumper charity.
It does, exactly that, which is important. It just allows me to continue to make these lovely things. And I'm not big on merch, so this is like one of the things I thought I'd make because I thought it'd be useful. So I hope it's good, and I hope people like it. Feedback's been good on it. But yeah, the link is in the chat now if you want to buy it. And if you want to buy a few for your agency, hit me up on LinkedIn, just message me and I can give you a little promo code to buy a few.
Oh, lovely. That's very kind of you.
You're welcome.
That has been an extremely quick and enjoyable hour, and it's really good to get to know the Rob behind the videos and to have an in-depth chat with you. So thank you so much, and huge thanks to everyone who sent in your questions today. I know that there were a few we didn't get to. We've saved them. So Rob, maybe we can talk about getting those questions answered on your LinkedIn and maybe making those answers public so everyone can see.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, just connect with me on LinkedIn if you haven't already. I'm always trying to be generous. I try and get to your messages, and you know, anyone needs advice, I'm always open to help and talk. I love talking about myself, so I'm available for that. But
fantastic.
Thank you very much for joining, everyone. And thank you, NABS. And by the way, NABS is amazing. So if you don't know, they've got so many good resources. So you're never alone if you've got issues or whatever. There's always someone there who can help, who's got experience with what you're going through, whether it's bad or whatever, or it's a friend or whatever. Like NABS is great for that.
Oh, Rob, thank you. He's done my job for me. I normally end with the pitch about call NABS if you need help, but thank you very much, Rob, for doing that. And I know, Rob, you've used our services. Back in the day, we used to have a flatmate service, and you found a flatmate.
Yeah, it's a flat share thing. It was like Airbnb before Airbnb. You could have made a fortune from it, but it was great. I've still got a lot of those emails. So I've got the same email address from years ago. So I've still got all the flat share emails that seem to pop up when I put NABS into my search engine. But yeah, no, it's great. So I'm very familiar with NABS, and that's why I was very happy to join and talk to you all today.
Well, we are so happy that you joined us. I think my main takeaway is that if you follow your creativity and you follow your passions, you can end up with a wonderful career. You just need to put a bit of the time in and have some confidence in yourself, which you've certainly done. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, everyone, again, for your questions. There's also a NABS podcast that we recorded with Rob, and you can listen to that chat. We will pop that in the box as well, so you can follow the link to that. Until then, Rob, thank you again. Have a very happy Christmas.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to you for joining. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.